tell us about how you then go from being this 14-year-old female in school, wanting a bit of a change, and then how do we go from that to actually, I'm a different person trapped inside of this body?
So, as I started to grow up into like my late teenage years, I started to really, really try to be that girl from Wigan. You know, going out in a dress and tall heels and, you know, hair long down my back and trying to dress like everybody else and trying to have boyfriends and trying to, you know, trying so much to just be Jess. I tried so hard to be Jess. Like I did not want to, I didn't know at the time either, but the only thing I ever wanted was to make my mum and dad proud. And I believed that if I made them proud, that would make me happy. And so that's what I always strived for. And as I started to go into those late teen years, I started to really struggle with my mental health. And I started to become really anxious and struggling with my friendships and things like that, because I was becoming more anxious as a person, but I was also starting to question my sexuality, to being attracted to women. And at the time, obviously, like at 18 years old, I didn't know any gay women in Wigan. And there was just like a real sort of year or two where I was probably not really nice to be around for my mum and dad, and I didn't want anyone to look at me when I went home, and I think about these things now and I think, no wonder you didn't, like, you hated yourself. Yeah. You hated the image that Jess was, and I started to really struggle in that way. And I was working in a gym at the time, and I made the decision to join the RAF at 19. And I'd always wanted to like go into the police and stuff. And if I was busy and I was physically active and I was mentally challenged, I was fine. So when I obviously joined the RAF, that like transformed me immediately. You know, for me and my family, everyone thought,
She's found it.
This is it. Yeah, like we've cracked it here.
So how did your family take it when you went from, you know, working in the gym, what age are we here, 18,
yeah,
late
18.
teens, 18, 19, and then decide, you know, because you're breaking that news to family members. I remember one of my nephews, actually, one has turned 30 today, one of my nephews saying, I'm going to go, he was in the TA, I'm going to go and join the army, and my sister, being the person that she is, was like, you can't on account of your bad legs. And he's like, oh my God, what are wrong with my legs? She said, I'm going to break them if you go in there because you're not leaving me. And so that was a thing that was never going to happen. You're never joining the military. You know, you're my son and you're my baby and you're staying here. How did your family take it? Were they expecting it because you'd always wanted to go into the police?
Yeah, I mean, they knew that I was a tomboy. They knew that I was really sporty. They knew that I was incredibly fit. I was motivated. I was determined. You know, although I struggled with my mental health, in terms of like myself and social situations, stuff like that, I was determined like to be good at something. And obviously there was the fear, but my mum and dad, you know, we've always had such a close relationship as a family. I've got the most amazing family. And it was one of the reasons I was really hard on myself for having my bad mental health, because Jess had no reason to be sad.
So you actually beat yourself up over it. How dare you feel sorry for yourself when you've got a nice life and a nice family?
Because I had everything. Like, I had all the love that I could ever want. I had amazing family. I had amazing friends. I had everything. And
it must have been really difficult to deal with, especially because, you know, being a teenager, irrespective of your gender, is not fun. Let's be honest. Most people don't enjoy that time. Yeah. One question I do want to ask here, though, is do you think that fitness, exercise, you know, the thing that releases natural endorphins, do you think that help with your mental health problems?
Yeah. So obviously in relation to the military, it did in school, obviously, because that's what I focused on. But so they were amazing with that, with me going into the military, because they thought that this would sort me out too, you know, and it would be something that I was really proud of and stuff. And it did. Like, the moment I joined, you know, I was in a uniform. I didn't have to think about what to wear. I didn't have to think about who Jess was. I was in this stereotypical masculine uniform, you know. I was constantly flying all over the world. I was constantly training. I was constantly just engrossed in this world. I was suddenly surrounded by all of these independent, powerful, strong gay women, who were just like me. They didn't dress really masculine and they didn't dress really feminine. They were just themselves.
You found your people.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh my God, like this is who I am. Like,
you found really felt like you fitted in.
Yeah, like, and I could obviously come out for the first time. But
hold on, we need to stop there. Come out for the first time. So it was only actually at the age of 18, 19 that you then started questioning your sexuality. Although you'd mentioned, at the age of 14, you this was the point where it was like, all of these, really strong, independent women, and typically or very, there's a huge
because I spent like say 16 to 18 trying to be this straight girly, like woman from Wigan, and then like 18, 19, I started to like struggle with it, and I joined the RAF and it just smacked me in the face, and I was like, oh Christ! But I didn't know any gay women in Wigan then, but I felt empowered by all these people, and I just knew who I was then, and obviously I was terrified to come out the first time, absolutely terrified. I was like, oh my God. And I was sat and I was like squeezing my sister's hand, like crying, like 19 years old, gathered them round the dining room table. Like she took a picture of me squeezing her hand and I had it tattooed on me because it was just like a really significant moment. I was terrified. Oh, wow. And then my dad was just like, "You're gay, aren't you?"
Stole your thunder.
I was just like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry." But they were like, "We
apologised.
know. Like, we know. We've known for you. They knew before me in that sense that I was gay, that I was a gay woman, and so that coming out process was fantastic, and we discussed it all, and it was fine. Obviously, I did it again 10 years later, but
hold on, there's 10 years.
Yeah, we're not going to that yet, but obviously that coming out was great.
So they knew before you did. Was that a relief? Was that like,
of course,
now I found my place in the world?
Yeah, we all thought we've cracked it here. The military and the uniform, it made me stand tall. It made me stand proud. It gave me this identity. It gave me this. I've always been really like secure and confident in a uniform. Even to this day, like it was terrifying to walk away from it because prior to transitioning, if I had a day off and I weren't getting up and putting a uniform on, I didn't know what to do with myself. Like my head would fall off. Whereas if I finished work at dinner time, I could go and be as productive as anything in my uniform, and go shopping and do all of this.
Isn't that really interesting? So,
because I didn't have to be Jess.
Yeah. So this is where, like, we talk about, I have conversations with people at part of my, like, get in state, because I was a proper tomboy growing up.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm so intrigued by all of this, because you were a tomboy, and that was because that was the path you were destined for. I was a tomboy because I used to play with the boys at school. I liked football, I climbed trees, I've got scars all over my legs from falling over all of the time, My hair was always scraped back really tight in a bun out of the way.
Yeah. It still feels like it is sometimes for me, I still feel it. It's like a weird, yeah.
I find this really interesting. I bet you don't miss doing your hair.
No,
God, I've got naturally wavy hair, like the biggest ball ache in the world. Just drying your hair. So, but I also, as part of my whole get in state, get ready to get on a stage, part of my being me and the stage persona is I'll always put heels on, I'll always put lipstick on. That's part of my get in state. And yours was the flip side, was the level of comfort was I'm in a uniform.
Like a body armour.
It's like, it's not gendered. It's authority. Was it an authority and you found your place, a uniform signifies
I felt powerful,
that you've got...
I felt good, I felt strong, I felt like you can handle anything.
However...
But, yeah...
So how long did that then continue? You were just... Because, when you think about it, there's got to be a book later down the line, hasn't there?
I've left so I can write one. Yeah, I've got to write one.
Definitely got to write one because you are, or have been, the experiences that you've had in your life, and you're what, like 28, 29?
30.
You're 30. So, oh my God, you make me feel old. So at the age of 30, you have been Jess, the heterosexual female. Then you've been Jess, the gay female.
Yeah.
And now you are... Do you prefer Jax or Jackson?
Either or.
Either or. Okay. Jax, we're mates now. And now you are Jax, who identifies as male.
Yeah.
You've had some surgeries.
Yeah.
But not all. Are you finished?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. So you're always in transition. You're literally living your motto, always in transition.
Yeah, we'll get onto that later.
You've experienced more in 30 years than many people would. And, is this about you sharing that strength? Because my kids go to school and, they are taught so many different things. And I am a firm believer that kids should be taught that they can be, do and have whatever they want. But in my world, in their world, there are two genders. You are male and you are female, and you can choose which one you want to be, and they understand that. There's so many TV programs, there's so many things that they, so much they see on social media. And my 9-year-old is like, oh yeah, we were talking yesterday, and he said to me that one of the girls in his school, she's so into football and she's so good at football, and he was like, yeah, she wants to be a boy. And I said, well, she actually said that. Or are you just making that assumption? He went, no. She said she wants to be a boy because she has to play football on a girls' team and she doesn't want to. She's better than all of the girls. She wants to play as a boy. And I thought, see, this is where it's really confusing for kids.
Yeah.
Because she wants to play on a boys' football team, but does that mean? And should her parents, because I want there to be lessons for people listening to this podcast. There's going to be parents out there who have children that were born one gender, want to be another, etc.
The parents.
How does someone deal with that?
The response that I get from parents, like, that's why I do this more. Like, I do it for
to
trans
help the
people.
Individuals.
But the parents is just because there isn't anything for
there's
parents.
No handbook, there's no guidebook for it.
I mean, I can talk about my parents, but it depends if you want to skip to...
Not yet, no.
Okay.
No, patience,
Let's
grasshopper.
talk about parents then.
We'll talk about parents later, but that's part of it, because this is, my fear is kids are going to be really confused.
Yeah.
And I am a firm believer that you can do, be and have anything you want in life.
But it's the boxes. Like, stop. My opinion is, right, have the education there. For a start, teaching them about gender identity is not teaching them about sex, so calm down. Teaching them about gender identity...
They need to be taught about sex as well.
But people just think they're the same thing. Teaching them about gender identity is not going to change them in any way. What we have to stop doing is telling kids that they have to pick and they have to decide right now. It's okay to change. It's okay to change your mind. It's okay to feel differently. You don't have to put yourself in a box. Like, as long as anyone, child, student, employee, friend, if someone feels loved and safe and accepted, they will thrive. So just let them grow up and express themselves. And if they want to play with that toy, play with that toy. If they want to dress like that, dress like that. They just let them be themselves. And if they feel comfortable and safe around you to do so, they will figure it out, and it'll save them a hell of a lot of years, unlike me, because they'll just figure it out, and there'll be no pressure, and they won't feel terrified to tell you that they want to do that.
But this is the challenging thing, is that you as a child were very loved. Do you think it's because there is...
The visibility.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that I'm aiming to be.
Yeah.
Like, every single person in this country will know what a trans man is, what a transgender person is, and what it means in the right way, because there's too many people putting out the wrong message too.